Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. Andy Burnham was officially named the leader of Britain's governing Labour Party on July the 17th. Now, this has paved the way for him to become the UK's first Prime Minister to enter office, publicly identifying as a Catholic. The UK has moved to select its seventh Prime Minister in a decade. Now, Andy Burnham's Catholic roots most probably might have some effect on his leadership, and that warrants a conversation for us in the United States, especially since we have seen our fair share of politicians who publicly identify as Catholic. Joining me to have a conversation about this is Joanna Bogle, journalist in the United Kingdom. Her book Newman's London is published by Gracewing Books. Joanna, so great to speak with you again. How are you?
Well, like everybody else in Britain, I'm much too warm. We've had the most ferocious heat wave. And what with that and the change of Prime Minister and so on, but this is really ghastly, the murder of Anne Widdecombe, the prominent politician and author and a personal friend, it's been a strange time, a very strange time. And the heat has somehow made it feel even odder.
I want to ask you, given that she was a dear friend of yours, how are you doing, and what's the public sentiment of the UK right now? As we know there's been a public charging. What's the feel of the pulse in the UK right now?
Well, the vast majority of people feel very warmly affectionate towards Anne. She was a very controversial figure, a Catholic and a staunch conservative, but she was also much liked. She was a woman of great good humour. And one of the things she did late in life was to take part in this absurd television program of competitive ballroom dancing in the most absurd way, and everybody adored her for it. I can't say I ever watched it, but they loved her, and she was, children adored her and called her the granny. And, she had to wear a glittering frock and was absolutely up for the most absurd thing being twirled around. So she had a place in everyone's affection. A very small number of sour people said horrid things because she was pro-life and Catholic, and they've been widely denounced. And the Home Secretary paid a very gracious tribute to her, even though she was not very much politically opposed. The Cardinal Archbishop Emeritus of Westminster paid a special tribute because he was and is patron of the Catholic Writers Guild, of which she was leading. The current Archbishop led a requiem mass for her immediately on hearing of her death. It's all been a huge outpouring of kindness and affection, and I have to say, people who knew that I was a good friend, including my own dear family, were very, very sweet to me, and my nephews and nieces phoned me up knowing I'd be upset. So actually, in a strange way, at a horrid time, the very nicest bits of British life have emerged, and I have to say, I was glad to pay my own tribute to Anne on our Catholic radio station here in London, Radio Maria. And when I look back to Anne, she was eccentric and so on. She had strong convictions, and she was enormously refreshing to be with. I mean, she became a Catholic immediately, really, after the Church of England voted to ordain women. She just knew that was an impossibility. So she left the Church of England and immediately started to investigate the Catholic Church, and finally was received at Westminster Cathedral and was a very good friend of Cardinal Basil Hume, who was Archbishop of Westminster at that time. So she played a very public role in the Catholic life in Britain, as well as a parliamentary role.
To shift gears to yet another person who is in politics, who publicly identifies as Catholic or proclaims to be Catholic, and that's Andy Burnham. What do we know about his faith? What do we know about his public witness of the faith?
Well, yes, and these, in an important and often rather sad way, these are two different things. He was brought up a Catholic, and his children attend a Catholic secondary school, as did he. And according to the public notices of it, his children attend a school dedicated to Saint Edmund Arrowsmith, who was one of our heroic Lancashire martyrs who held firmly to the faith during the Reformation and was tortured and died for doing so. So there's a strong Manchester Catholic root, which is a fine heritage, truly a very fine heritage. But he said he doesn't go regularly to Mass, And it's not at all clear the way in which he really sees the Catholic Church as forming his ideas. He has said that when he was at school, all that he heard about the Catholic faith meant the Catholic social teaching meant the Labour Party. I think this is really rather an absurd point of view, because it is not like that at all. And trying to tie the Catholic faith to a particular political party's agenda is quite wrong. If he talks about Catholic social teaching, that takes us to Rerum Novarum, the splendid encyclical by Leo XIII, who roundly denounces socialism in the ideological sense and focuses firmly on the family, and even mentions the importance of women being at home, none of which sounds very much like the Labour Party or indeed anything much in politics in modern Britain, especially the idea that the family based on marriage as the union of a man and a woman, which of course Leo XIII assumes, and that a man should earn enough to raise his own family on his earnings. That's a very unpopular view in Britain. And I can't imagine Andy Burnham saying, well, it's my view and I'm going to stand with it, because that's not Labour Party policy at all. So I'm wary. However, he seems a pleasant, cheery chap, and I'm sure we're all going to hope that anybody who takes on this very onerous job is going to make a go of it. But I am wary, and I think it's very sad when a Catholic in public life announces publicly that they don't go to Mass. I think that's rather a shocking thing. And even if he said it without realising that it would shock us all, well, it does shock us, and I think we are all the poorer for that.
We are the poorer indeed, especially when you consider that those who take on public office, whether they like it or not, put themselves in the public eye. And so the witness of one's faith from that office, for good or for ill, can either strengthen and bolster or scandalize.
Yes. And it's a shame, because he has an opportunity, given his Catholic family background, and that's all one can really say, because, you know, if he's not going to Mass, he's not a practicing Catholic at all. But he went with his wife, of course, to Buckingham Palace, so that the king could formally appoint him as Prime Minister. And it's always nice to see a married couple doing that, and she looked very elegant, you know. And you know how the media immediately pick up what frock she's wearing and how much it cost and all that sort of thing, so it was all rather grand. But I hope it's more than just trying to look nice and happy. He has also said that he doesn't really want to live at number 10 Downing Street. He would rather keep his family home in Manchester. One is not unsympathetic to that. But it does have to be said that part of the charm of 10 Downing Street is that it's a real family home. It's not just an office. And there's a rich history of the idea of the Prime Minister actually living in an ordinary house in an ordinary street, handy for Parliament. So the idea of sort of going there from time to time seems to lose something. However, there we are. These are decisions that he wants to make. And he will also have to be active in his constituency, as every member of Parliament is, whether they're Prime Minister or not. I am sorry that he hasn't made clear that his faith will motivate him at a very basic level. The Catholic Church doesn't have, as we all know, a set of absolute options on every policy, absolutely the reverse. But the family centered on a man and a woman in marriage is absolutely fundamental, as is the idea that everything should be done at the smallest unit rather than the biggest. So state control of everything is very contrary to the Catholic understanding of a good social order. We must hope, and we might perhaps pray. I suppose it's fair to add, especially in the wake of Anne Widdecombe's murder, that it's going to be perhaps difficult for very public figures to do things that at one time would have seemed the most ordinary thing on earth, like going to church on Sunday. They might have to be accompanied by security, which is a rather terrible thought, and something that makes it a very different England from the one we've known for so many centuries. But it would not be impossible for him to go to Mass. A church could be notified in advance, and he could be whistled in and be safe while he was in church. So I think it's a pity if he doesn't.
Joanna, as usual, tremendous joy and a blessing to have you enlighten us. And we will continue to pray for the UK, and one would hope that it reclaims its very deep and illustrious Christian heritage. I've been talking with Joanna Bogle, journalist in the United Kingdom, about Andy Burnham being named a Catholic Prime Minister in the UK. Stay tuned, I'm Marcus Mita.